Hi, I'm Crystal Don Awitan, and today I will discuss to you the cardiovascular system, the blood flow through the heart. The cardiovascular system consists of the heart, which is a muscular pumping device, and a closed system of vessels called arteries, veins, and capillaries. Although it is a single structure, the heart is actually two pumps in one. So let's start with the systemic circulation, a circulation of blood to the body. It starts from the left side of the heart, pumps blood to all other tissues of the body, and back to the right side of the heart. Let me try it for a second. The systemic circulation always starts from the left ventricle, and it moves to the aorta, passing through the aortic semilunar valve. And it passes to different branches. And from these branches arises the arteries. And from these arteries, we have smaller branches called arterioles. From the arterioles, we've got the capillaries or the systemic capillaries where the gas exchange occurs. And from the capillaries, it moves to the venules, then to the veins, and enters the superior and inferior vena cava. And the systemic circulation ends in the right atrium. Moving on to the pulmonary circulation, which is moving through the lungs. It starts from the right side of the heart, pumps blood to the left side of the heart through vessels. Now let me try it again. In pulmonary circulation, the blood moves from the right ventricle. We already know that from the vena cava, the systemic circulation ends in the right atrium. And from the right atrium, it moves through the right ventricle, passing through the tricuspid valve. So, from the right ventricle, it moves upwards, passing through the pulmonary semilunar valves, passing through the pulmonary trunk, then to the pulmonary arteries. From the pulmonary arteries, it moves to the pulmonary arterioles, then to the pulmonary capillaries, where picking up of oxygen and dropping of CO2 occurs, or the gas exchange process. And the oxygenated blood now moves back towards the pulmonary venules, to the pulmonary vein, which is the only vein that carries oxygenated blood, and finally to the left atrium. From the left atrium, the blood pumps down through the mitral valve into the left chamber, which is the left ventricle. And that's the complete circuit being formed in the pulmonary circulation. Now, let's move to the last one, the coronary circulation, which is the blood flow from the heart through coronary arteries to the heart and by cardiac veins back to the heart. Coronary circulation starts from the left ventricle, pumps blood into the aortic semilunar valve, then from into the ascending aorta, it branches into the right coronary artery and left coronary artery. The right coronary artery provides supply to the right atrium and gives rise to the marginal artery, nourishing the lateral aspect of the right side of the heart, and post-interventricular artery, supplying the posterior aspect of both ventricles and part of the interventricular septum. This goes to supply the myocardium by dropping of oxygen and picking up of CO2. They are correspondingly drained by the small cardiac vein and the middle cardiac vein, which empties into the coronary sinus. The left coronary artery gives off anterior interventricular branch, supplying the anterior walls of both ventricles and most of the interventricular septum. This artery contributes the most to the left ventricle and is therefore the most critical vessel of the heart. The circumflex branch curves into the posterior surface, providing for the left atrium and posterior walls of the left ventricle, which goes to their according myocardium and supply oxygen and pick up CO2 or the waste products. Then they are drained accordingly by the great cardiac vein and the posterior vein of the left ventricles, which empties into the coronary sinus. The coronary sinus now, with all of this deoxygenated blood, empties into the right atrium, which goes down to the right ventricle and gets sent out to the pulmonary circulation to get reoxygenated. Note to remember, the heart is only getting that blood supply when the heart is in diastole, which is in relaxation period. If the heart is actually there having an excessively high heart rate, the heart will not be able in diastole long enough for the myocardium to get that actual supply of blood. So it's very important that the myocardium is a nice diastole period so they can get the oxygen it needs to continue to function properly. And that includes the coronary circulation.